Hello and welcome to A Few Minutes With. Today I'm talking to Julia Petiprin, owner and founder of House of Departures in Cincinnati. Julia is talking to us about inspiration, how she finds it and how she uses it. Hi Julia, tell us a little bit about where inspiration for restaurant design comes from for you.
Yeah, I really get a lot of inspiration from everywhere. I don't think there's one hard and fast rule for where inspiration comes from. Um, I think you have these aha moments, but they're backed by giving yourself an incubation period, allowing yourself to even move your body, exercise, sketch. Um, Resources such as design magazine, the archives, photography books. I mean, really, inspiration comes from anywhere and everywhere. Nature. I love going to the library, travels, all of those things.
And you mentioned an incubation period. Is it good to have time to sometimes just stop thinking about it so something can float to the surface?
Yes, when you have that uh, freedom, it absolutely does help. I think there's something to be said about immediately sketching or immediately putting down an idea just to get your brain working, but then allowing yourself time to just sit with that, maybe even forget about it for a minute and come back with a fresh pair of eyes. I think that, new ideas can spawn by having that resting period.
And at the beginning of the process, Julia, do you have certain questions you like to ask yourself or the client just to kind of hone in on that inspiration?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's very important to collect as much information, data, images as possible. A few of the questions that I like to ask is, I want to know if they've done some of their own homework. I want to know if they've collected images for inspiration, if they have any hard no's. I really like knowing if they've already worked with another creative, so maybe a branding company, because a lot of times, we share a lot of the same processes and we can really work together for the overall good of the project. Um, just knowing their story, knowing their why, what feeling they want to evoke, who are they creating this space for, as much feedback and information I can collect from the client, the better, for sure.
And when you've gathered all this multitude of ideas, what do you do with it? Do you create a mood board or do you have an area where you kind of gather textures and objects?
Yes. As somebody who likes to call themselves organized, this is where it gets a little loose because we're sharing with clients, we're sharing with team members. So a few places, I really do think Pinterest is a good place for collaboration with a client because it's so accessible. So we could each pin, onto a secret board and be able to refer back to that. Digital folders, Google, Dropbox, shared albums on our phones. And then, in studio, I have a pin board. So I'm very tangible, physical. I like touching and feeling things. So having an actual pin board, and a material box for the project.
With all these ideas, you sounds like you've got tons of photos and items you can touch and feel. How do you pare it down to and get rid of some of these fantastic ideas?
Yeah. Yeah, that really does come down to, additional incubation time, but really it's an evaluation period. So you evaluate each detail, you refer back to the beginning ideas, to the beginning concepts, try different combinations, really understanding the space plan, the goals of the project, the client, the timeline, the budget, and the space that you're working with. So a lot of times I think what ends up happening is a furnishing or something will just not work for the space. Like the dimensions don't work or the timeline, it's going to take too long to get. And then we need to speed up the process of that. So, um, Yeah.
So having those parameters that
Yeah.
the type of customer or the budget and timeline, that kind of helps you eliminate certain ideas that you've come up with.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, having parameters, I do think that as creatives, having parameters is helpful. I actually think that it can spawn even more creativity when you have some constraints. Mhm.
Well, final question, Julia. What about technology? I know you said you like to have that pin board, you're a tactile person. What technology is helpful in this early inspiration stage?
Yeah. So, with the age of AI, we have to be careful with it. Of course, it's so new. But I have uh, dove into using some technology such as like Midjourney. What's great about Midjourney is you can have as little of an idea or as grandiose of an idea with as much or as little detail and put it in and kind of let it produce something. Obviously, these are just for inspiration purposes, since most things on AI are copies of something else. But it really can help if you're feeling stuck, to try something new. I also think, I like to sketch. I think that we hold a lot of knowledge in our bodies. So being able to physically sketch. And I think this is a tool that is exciting, and anything that new or um, any new trade you learn or any new skill you develop, I think can help with your creativity and your imagination. So using those is just another tool that's available to us now that I think can be helpful.